is to give our own considered reaction to the judgment that has just been rendered. We are very much concerned about that of Enugu because it has a broader national implication that may not be immediately available to a lot of observers. The first implication of that judgment, if it is not annulled upstairs, or if it's not sufficiently, the questions that were sent to the tribunal, if the appeal court didn't take its time to sufficiently address the basic questions that were sent to them, then there will be a serious lingering doubt on the validity of NYSC certificate and the question of certification as a whole. It renders NYSC a nullity. It no longer make sense for anybody to do NYSC or anybody to present a degree certificate and complement it with a NYSC certificate, because in Nigeria, officially, statutorily, if you say you are a graduate from any of the university system in Nigeria and you present a certificate, unless you graduated as an old man. If you graduated as an old man or old woman, you're above 30, you're not obligated to present NYSC certificate. Then you present a discharge certificate, or you better just rely on your school cert, like Buhari did. Buhari didn't present any NYSC or any fantastic degree certificate. Even the little he presented was even contested up to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided it mattered. So the best way to avoid this kind of controversy is to present what you have, or if you have an incomplete or a certificate that is very doubtful. We're not saying, for instance, that the governor of Enugu State, we're not saying what the NYSC has said. The NYSC has already said that that certificate was not issued by them. That is not our concern. We don't care whether the certificate is forged or whether it was issued by them or whatever happens. That is not our concern at this moment. Our concern is the broader implication of dismissively attending to a critical matter of litigation the way that panel did, and just waved it aside as if it doesn't matter. It matters, because why we say it matters is because of the secondary incident that may not be associated with the ruling, but there happens to be a coincidence between the two. What are we saying? We're saying that the president, Bola Tinubu, made a youth corper, a serving youth corper, as a cabinet-level appointee. And we are still talking about that matter, whether she has violated the law or not, which we didn't even bother to look at. Our own is just to tell Nigerians that this is what we know about this person. She's the copper. Is she supposed to be a minister? So you left for Nigerians to argue from whatever angle they want to argue about it. We say it is not right for a youth corper to be a serving minister when you have so many people who are graduates. If he's a graduate you want to appoint as a minister, or you want to go by what the Constitution says, even a WAEC holder, or somebody who even has attempted WAEC, 7 F9 and 2 passes, can be a minister in Nigeria. If that is the one you want, okay. But if you want to appoint a graduate, that graduate must present NYSC certificate. So what we're asking is there a conspiracy against NYSC that we have not tackled the matter of a youth corper? I don't know whether she's still a minister, because I have not seen her in any newspaper. I have not seen her in any press conference. You people are journalists, you can better answer that question. You are practicing. I'm also a journalist, but you guys are the ones that are in the field. I don't know whether you have seen her somewhere addressing herself as a minister, but for now, the president has not even said one thing about that controversy. It even got to a level that people started calling and pouring all kinds of invectives and abuses on us, on me as a person, as if there's an interest. There's no interest. We're not. I don't want to be a minister. That is not my. I'm not an APC member. I didn't campaign for Tinubu. I didn't even vote for him. So I have no hope. I'm not like Wike, that at least worked for Tinubu, so he has the right to become a minister. So we don't have anything to do with Musawa becoming a minister. But what we're saying is that the institution, the sanctity of that institution of NYSC has to be preserved. If we want to dismantle that institution, so be it. That's not our issue. But as long as that institution is still in existence, and the institution says this certificate is not ours, and the tribunal just threw away that question without responding to it. So why did you even go into that matter? Why did you say this man submitted the NYSC certificate, but the NYSC certificate is not a requirement? It's not a requirement. Why was it submitted? So that matter was left hanging. It was not treated. I have already told you the implication, so you understand what we're saying. What we're saying is that the implication is that if that thing is not tackled by the higher court and a resolution, definitive answer to it, even if it means using forensic scientists to verify the validity of that certificate or whatever, something has to be said. Or there has to be a correction of that particular mispronouncement on NYSC certification requirements. Let me now read what we have as a text. So we're not, so you understand what we're saying. We're going to distribute the statements, but let me just read a few paragraphs. The Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria strongly denounced the recent ruling by the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Enugu, which has left the nation in disbelief. Huriwa, okay, no need to say that, it's like self-promotion. In a statement released on Saturday, Huriwa condemns the tribunal's decision in the strongest possible terms. We describe that judgment as a misjudgment, a miscarriage of justice that undermines the principles of fairness and transparency in elections. The statement, the statement that I'm reading is of the view that that ruling not only condones potential acts of alleged certificate forgery, but also sends a distressing message that political aspirants can manipulate their qualifications with impunity precisely because the tribunal deliberately failed to address that aspect of the petition, but rather played around flowery language to deodorize the panel's decision to unleash injustice. The three-man tribunal, in a unanimous judgment delivered by its chairman, Honorable Justice Kudirat Akano, dismissed the petition of the Labour Party on the basis that the National Youth Service Corps certificate is not a qualification to contest a governorship election. This reasoning demonstrates a troubling lack of understanding of the law and its implication. One of the most troubling aspects of the ruling is the acknowledgement by the tribunal that Governor Mbah may or may not have presented a likely false NYSC certificate because the tribunal left the question in an unmitigated logical ambiguity, when in fact it was expected to definitively make a pronouncement on the validity or invalidity of that allegation of certificate forgery, which in any event, the governor has another subsisting matter in another court of coordinate jurisdiction for interpretation. The tribunal, which opted to deal with that matter, would have applied the law, but rather applied sophistry and ended up not resolving that critical question. Astonishingly, the tribunal considered that the certificate was presented, but argued that because the governor did not intend to use it as to aid his qualification, he cannot be disqualified. This dubious reasoning essentially tolerates potential forgery and undermines the very essence of electoral transparency and honesty. Get us very well. We are not saying that the certificate he presented is forged. NYSC has already done that by themselves because we are not part of the issuing authority. So we do not have the capacity. We don't have the legal capacity to make a pronouncement on the validity of that certificate that was presented to INEC. By the way, it's even a matter before competent courts of law. So, in as much as we are not even part of the case or whatever, we cannot be part of the case, but we are just saying that the question was left unresolved. Decrying this shocking concession, we are arguing that it sets a very dangerous precedent, eroding the foundation of democracy and accountability. Just as the group emphasized that the implications of this is a miscarriage of justice, no doubt. It's far beyond Enugu State. It undermines the credibility of Nigeria's electoral process and damages the trust of the Nigerian people in their government institutions. We are not just expressing our outrage, but our deep concern regarding the rightness of assigning such a matter to a panel presided over by the Honorable Justice Kudirat Morayo Akano. It has come to light. There are reports in a section of the press that they said justice has some kind of a cloud of controversy, having faced the allegations of deliberately subverting the course of justice in the case she presided over as an Osun State High Court judge. I think those allegations, I don't know, they have not been resolved by the NJC, or whether they are before the NJC or whatever, but the allegations were in the media against this particular person. If there is a question, whether the question is wrong or right, or correct or incorrect, when they say, my Lord, I do not trust that you can dispassionately handle a matter, are there no other judges that the appointing authorities, the President of the Court of Appeal will appoint to head panels, other than somebody who has, well, you can call it unproven allegation? Why not appoint somebody else to avoid? This is a very serious matter. It's a very serious matter. A matter of whether something that was given to an institution, to electoral panel, was valid or not, was forged or not. There are other associated issues around that election that we don't think that panel was qualified to preside over that kind of sensitive case. Now, the larger implication of this ruling, which we cannot ignore, is that it effectively invalidates the practice of presenting a degree certificate presupposing possession of an NYSC certificate or NYSC discharge certificate. Get us well again. We are not saying that the certificate presented by the governor of Enugu State is forged, because we don't have the legal capacity. So don't quote us that we say his certificate is forged. It's not from Horiwao. The NYSC people, through the DG, has already appeared on Arise TV and made that pronouncement, and the matter is before a competent court of law. And the matter went to a tribunal, and the tribunal refused to hear that matter, refused to tackle that matter, and just left it like that. Who will solve it if the tribunal is running away from answering that question and just dismissing it just like that, without applying law, applying the relevant sections of the law to definitively say what the right situation is around that question. If someone presents a certificate that is later deemed forged, whether rightly or wrongly, by the issuing authority, it raises fundamental questions about the tribunal's negligence in addressing this issue. Why did the tribunal not thoroughly investigate the authenticity of the certificate since it was submitted, especially if it claims that NYSC certificate is not a requirement? If it truly holds no importance, why did the candidate submit it in the first place? These are glaring inconsistencies that the tribunal failed to address, leaving room for skepticism and doubts about the impartiality of that judgment. Therefore, while fully endorsing the decision of the Labour Party to appeal the case immediately in the light of the scandalous ruling. We are calling on the appellate court to correct the grave injustice and uphold the principles of fairness, transparency, and integrity, and give Nigerians a definitive response to that question so that Nigerians will once and for all know if NYSC is relevant or not. If it's not relevant, then close shops. Let everybody go home. Yes, close shops. If the certificate of NYSC is not even good for running the election, and the law setting up NYSC says if you have a university degree and you graduated before 30, you must present NYSC certificate. And the tribunal is here saying it doesn't really matter. Even if you present degree certificate, it doesn't matter. We're not going to look at it, whether it is forged or not, because it doesn't really matter. It's not, and they were just citing one section of the Nigerian Constitution, that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't hold any moment. I mean, it doesn't hold any consequence, so it doesn't matter. If that is the case, then why are we wasting billions running NYSC yearly? You close down the place. You close down the place, and even better, you even use that money, and even go into something that is helpful to the youth, because the money that is a budget that is meant for the youth. Then share it to the youth now. Get the money. The money you're supposed to give to that institution that the court and even the president is saying is of no use because he's appointing serving you as a minister, violating the law, setting up the institution. If the institution doesn't hold any water any longer, which we don't care, we're not a part of NYC. If they say it's not something that's relevant to us again, then channel the money to the youth. Create a different thing that will directly benefit the youth, because you can't kill that institution and leave the youth empty-handed. It's not possible, because it's a security threat, national security threat. If you close down NYSC and you don't make a provision for the youth to have that one year partial employment, it's a very, very, in fact, it's a much more higher national security threat than even these terrorists that run around all over the place. Let me see, maybe if there are... we've already said something about the youth copper, who is a minister, even though journalists, you guys are here, have you ever seen her address the press? Is she still a minister? If she's still a minister, and this court is making this pronouncement, it's a very serious issue. It's a very serious matter that goes directly to the foundation of that institution that is very critical, NYSC.